Hey there, welcome to a brand new episode of Muzikxpress. My name is Twan, and in this week's vlog you will see my interview with Adam Pracy, where we talk about his classic Feeling This Way, which came out in the year 2000 under the project name The Conductor The Cowboy. Enjoy! Adam Pracy was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, but he moved back to the UK with his parents when he was still very young. Adam grew up with listening to Jean-Michel Jarre, Erasure and the Pet Shop Boys. At the end of the 1990s, he got into clubbing and trance, and then he started to listen to music of Paul van Dyk, Armin van Buuren, Ferry Corsten and Lange. In the year 2000, he released the track Feeling This Way, which came out under the name The Conductor The Cowboy, a track he did together with Lee Hallett and Lee's sister Laura. Feeling This Way was released on May 8, 2000. The track charted at the midweeks at number 26 in the UK pop charts, and it even made it to the number 6 position of the club charts. Since Feeling This Way turns 20 this year, I sat down with Adam during the Amsterdam Dance event in October 2019 to talk with him about the story behind Feeling This Way and more. My first question to him was how old he was when he started to listen to music.
To listen to music, I guess probably 7 or 8 by the time you kind of actually develop any kind of sense of something that you like for yourself.
Do you still remember the first record you ever bought?
I do. Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax.
That's a good one.
That and New Order, they're classics really, aren't they?
So is it true that you used to work in video game development before you started to make dance music?
Yes, that's true, yes. I worked for a number of years in the video game industry for EA, IDOS, working on a number of video games.
Okay, you mentioned a few games that you worked on?
Yeah, for EA I did a game called Space Hulk Vengeance of the Blood Angels, which was a Games Workshop license. The board games with the duo tetrahedron, the 20-sided dice, Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of thing, but it was a Space Marine version of that.
Okay. So why and when did you decide to start producing dance music?
So having worked in the industry for the video game industry as a musician and an audio director, I had a natural interest in music, and later on you start to develop again your sense of style, and I always tended to lean towards stuff that had a beat and had some drive to it, and I guess it just kind of takes over from there.
Okay. So I heard your first release ever was actually a bootleg remix you did of Sonique's It Feels So Good. What's the story behind that?
So that's true. So there was a Judge Jules mix CD, and then towards the end of the CD, or at the last track, he drops Sonique's Feels So Good, but I think it was the original breakbeat mix. It was a lovely catchy vocal, but the track didn't really do anything. It didn't have that sort of drive to it. I guess that's why Jules had put it at the end of a CD as a kind of a chill out. But I heard that and just thought, well, that could be so much better with a nice 4 on the floor, and I could see some anthem potential in it, so I decided to remix it.
And what happened after you finished the remix?
So, in my naivety of being new to the music industry, I just decided to do the remix, and I thought, oh yeah, that's great. I went and got it mastered and an acetate cut, and that was great. And then I just decided, right, I'm going to have, I can't remember, it's 500 or 1,000 white labels pressed. I sent the order off, and I actually had all the records sitting in my house, and I'm thinking, right, I'm about to start sending this out to all the different record labels, and for some strange reason I had this voice in the back of my head, and maybe it was a touch of the guilt or something, where I thought perhaps I'd better ring the record label and see how they feel about this, which is what I did. All a bit Johnny Big Balls and a bit cocksure of myself. I rang up the label. I didn't know who Sirius Records were, and that they were kind of, the premier stable for all of these well-known DJs back then. So I rang them up and I was just like, I've done this remix of Sonique, think it's great, I'm going to whack out these 500 white labels. And this voice at the other end went, no, that's probably not a very good idea, because you'll be talking to the legal team very quickly. But if you send the mix in, I'll tell you what I think. Little did I know, the chap that I was speaking to was Sam O'Royden, which is Judge Jules' brother, Julian O'Royden. So I'm talking to basically the label manager, and I'm telling him I've remixed one of his artists, and I'm about to put out these white labels, and it's just a catastrophe, really, in looking back on it. So I sent the mix in, thinking, oh, this is all going to go horribly wrong and I'm going to end up in lots of trouble, and I got lucky. They called me back, they loved the mix, and yeah, I kind of got the red carpet treatment from there on. So bootlegging can pay. It started my career.
Yeah, so Pete Tong did even play a bootleg remix in his Essential Mix, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Again, one afternoon, I got a little bit of warning. The boss of Sirius, Simon Belowski, rang me and he just was like, "Son, put the radio on. Pete Tong's playing your track." And I'm like, well, that's kind of one of those bucket list tick boxes, isn't it? Certainly for a dance music producer.
So right after your Sonique remix, the track "Feeling This Way" came out, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Conductor and the Cowboy. Can you explain why you guys picked this as an artist name?
It was quite an organic, although it's a strange name, it came about quite naturally. When we used to go out clubbing, I would tend to conduct the breakdowns and builds a bit like a conductor, and Lee used to like wearing a cowboy hat when we'd go out, and so it kind of, yeah, just stuck, the Conductor and the Cowboy, and it seemed like one of those. It's an unusual name and it had something catchy about it, and it also reminded me of a Pet Shop Boys lyric, and I'm a big fan of Pet Shop Boys, so it just sort of worked.
So it's 20 years ago now since Feeling This Way came out. Do you remember something from the production still?
I do, yeah. The production was so done with some very early gear, and you'd be surprised if you look at what we produce with today and what Feeling was done with back then. You'd be very surprised. I had an Amiga running Octamed, which is like a tracker, vertical tracker type program, where you literally have to program the note and then a hexadecimal code for the volume of the note or whatever. So just to do a volume slide would require sort of 10 or 15 minutes worth of actual programming in hexadecimal. Whereas today, you just draw a spline and it's like 2 seconds work. So it was a real labour of love back then. So I had the Amiga running Octamed, and that was synced up to MIDI. I had a PC running Propeller Head's Rebirth, which is like the forerunner to Reason, kind of what came before Reason. And it was an emulator of two 303s and a 909, I think. And the emulation of the 303s was just, for then, it was really difficult to sort of tell the difference between that and a real 303. So I had this, I had Reason running on this PC. That was synced up to MIDI. I was struggling to get the sync over MIDI. I had a couple of external sound modules, a Roland JV 1080 and a Yamaha TG300, I think, which were providing additional sounds, layering and so forth. But I was really struggling to get the PC and Rebirth to sync over MIDI. So in the end, I just decided to sample all of the 303 parts and dump them into the sampler on the PC, which was a Sound Blaster All 32 back then, 32 megs of memory. And I've got the whole track. I couldn't get all of the samples into the sample RAM at 44.1 CD quality, so I had to resample them down to half the bit rate, 22.5. So all the samples are, all of the 303s are at half rate, and then the samples are triggered via MIDI because I couldn't get them to sync properly. It was a bit of a nightmare, but in the end I managed to get it to work. Okay,
so was it the plan already from the start to make it a vocal track?
Well, I was very much into the trance scene, and I guess the kind of peak time tunes, the big tunes, were big vocal trance tunes. Tracks like Lang's Braveheart for the Love of a Princess, that kind of stuff was around, and it was very much influencing us at the time. And so to have you either needed to have a very big hook instrumental or a vocal hook. So the plan was probably to make it a vocal track.
How did you meet Lee?
So I'd written this instrumental after doing the Sonique remix. I'd written this instrumental. Sirius said to me, "We love the remix. Can you do anything original? Can we have something original?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I'd written this instrumental, and I kind of knew it needed something else. It felt like it was. I had a feeling it felt like this might go somewhere. A lot of producers will say that. They can sort of tell when maybe a track might be the one that might set them on the road. And I had a feeling, no pun intended, but I kind of thought I needed a vocal. And so I asked around some friends, just in the local sort of social circle. And when we went out clubbing one night, I was introduced to Lee, and we kind of got on really well. Turns out he had a kid sister that could sing really well, and that was rather fortuitous.
So Lee wrote the lyrics, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So what is the meaning behind the lyrics?
So I'd given him the instrumental and said to him, go and write some lyrics from that, and maybe we can have a guitar part, because ATB 9pm was quite popular at the time, and you kind of, again, you take influences from what's currently popular. So he went away and wrote the lyrics. We'd sort of had a chat before about maybe some kind of love song. Again, this wasn't any kind of, we had a grand plan, but you have an idea about what songs work well, and love is a popular topic. If you can make love an asexual topic so that you can have it from any gender to any gender and it doesn't matter, then suddenly you have a broader appeal. And so maybe there was a bit of that going on there, but beyond that we didn't really have that much of a plan. Lee came back with the lyrics, which worked just brilliantly in a love song context, but also rather well in a coming up on ecstasy context. And we liked that double meaning.
I remember you told me off camera there was this story about Jules playing the track a lot, and he was also...
So yeah, Jules would go around and he obviously do these club nights, but occasionally he'd go and do these kind of benefit gigs, and he used to play these anti-drugs gigs, and he'd very often close his set with Feeling, which is kind of ironic given what I've just told you, but that always made us laugh.
Yeah, sorry, Jules.
Yeah. I don't think Jules knows that, and he might be quite angry about that, but hey, it's 20 years later, get over it.
So Lee and both his sister do sing the lyrics, right?
Sorry, say that again.
Lee and his sister both sing the lyrics.
Yes, yeah, Lee and Laura both sing the lyrics, and it's designed to be a love song that is sung in a kind of question and answer phrase, so that it feels like a duet.
Yeah. It's really special because around that time there wasn't really anything like that in trance, I think. No,
you're absolutely right. Lee identified that literally every big trance song was the typical, stereotypical female trance vocal. And while there was nothing wrong with that, maybe there would be some room to bring something else to the party. And so he was bang on the money there with well, let's have it as a male female vocal, and yeah, there was nothing else like it at the time.
Smart move.
Very smart move.
Yeah. So the guitar part on the track, is that like a real guitar?
Yeah, that's also Lee playing real guitar. Again, as I said, 9pm, ATB 9pm was out, and it was a great big track, but as a producer, you can hear that's not a real guitar, it's programmed. I think it was from a Kurt Swile or something like that. Can't remember where it came from. But yeah, so we wanted to kind of lift that idea, but do it with a real guitar. Yeah. And Lee came back with the guitar part, and it wasn't quite right. It needed to be, I said to him, just leave it with me, I'll chop it up, stick it in the sampler and just move some of the notes around and give it a bit more of a catchiness. But yeah, he played the original guitar part. I still have the sample somewhere of the original guitar part.
So how long did it take you to finish the entire track?
So it was kind of written in sort of 2, maybe 3 stages. I'd written the original instrumental, and that came together quite quickly. That was probably written in 2 or 3 days, something like that. Enough to get it to a point where you think, yeah, this is something quite good. I'd given that to Lee, and then he comes back with the vocals and the guitar part, and then you sort of then work that into the mix. I probably spent, I don't know, another few days working that in. And I remember getting to a point where I thought, this is pretty good, I can probably send this now. And actually then I decided to mess around with different arrangements and stuff for probably another week. But the reality is the track probably took a week, 10 days, something like that.
So I guess it was easy to get it signed?
Yeah, well, yes it was, but I had to pester the A&R guy. I obviously had a good relationship. His name was Rick Salmon. I think he went on to Ministry after working at Sirius. Yeah, he was very busy, and so I sent the track in, and back then it was kind of emails and phone calls. We're not all socialed up like we are now. I left it a couple of days and I hadn't heard anything from him. I thought, I'm going to ring him up and pester him. I was like, dude, have you listened to that track yet? And he was like, no, I'm so sorry, I've been really, really busy. I said, look, just put me on hold, even if you have to go into the toilet with a head Walkman or whatever, just go and have a listen. And he went, okay, I'll do that now. And it wasn't I wasn't on hold very long. About 60 seconds later, he picked the phone back up and he went, "I love it, I'll sign it, we want it." So it was, yeah. But the persistence was getting him to listen to it. Once he listened to it, yeah, he signed it.
So can you tell what happened after the release?
Track goes on to do very well. It's on a Clubber's Guide, loads of other compilations. I think it ended up on about 30 compilations. Loads of DJs picked up on it, from not just Jules, but Graham Gold, John Kelly. Loads of people picked up on it and kind of championed it. I think probably because it had that unique male-female vocal, and no one else had really done that. And it seemed to have almost crossover potential in lots of different DJ sets. I mean, John Kelly, I wouldn't normally have expected him to have been playing stuff like that, but I was in Amnesia one year and he played it and it went off. It was amazing. The track did very well. It kind of had crossover potential. I wasn't expecting it to have crossover potential. To be honest, back then I was just happy to get a track signed. Never did I never really thought that this track would not only be signed, but it would then end up doing quite well in the club charts, having crossover potential and actually charting in the UK singles charts, and then to go on to be considered a classic. It's the stuff dreams are made of.
Yeah, so you already mentioned like Feeling This Way made it into the UK charts and it even made it to in the club charts. So you didn't expect anything like this, right?
I've just finished working in video game music. I've been effectively made redundant. I need an income, so what do I do? I turn to what I naturally do, which is write music. I've been going out clubbing recently. I'd fallen in love with trance, and I suddenly have this light bulb moment of, well, why don't I give this a go? How hard can this be? Expecting that it is going to be really quite hard, and I'm going to end up with lots of slog and paying my dues, we call it. And yeah, I got really lucky.
Yeah. So do you have any idea how many copies have been sold?
No, not really. It's probably about 250,000 now. Overall, yeah.
So what is your favorite memory when it comes to the release of Feeling This Way?
Favorite memory? Wow. Probably Amnesia. No. Amnesia or Privilege. Privilege was pretty special. They sang the lyrics back to me. That's pretty. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty special.
That's cool. So Solarstone did a remix of the track. Did you pick him, or who was in charge of that?
No, that was Rick, the A&R guy at Sirius. We chatted about a few people that I wanted potentially to do the remix. Solarstone was one of them. We had a little short list, and for whatever reason, Rick got Rich and the guys to do it, and yeah, it was a brilliant mix. It's one of those moments when Rick rang me up and he said, "I've got the remix, it's come in," and I'm like, "Yeah, and he's like, "No, it's amazing." And I'm like, "Great, send it over."
So in 2017 the track got re-released with new remixes by Solos and Sean Truby, but now the track turns 20. Are there plans for new remixes maybe?
Yes, yeah. So it's 20 next year, it's the 20th anniversary. I had a chat with the label, and while they're not adverse to putting it out officially, because we only put it out a few years ago, it's probably not a good idea to put it out again. We'll probably save it for the 25th anniversary to put it out officially again. But I'm not going to ignore the 20th anniversary, and I plan to do something very special, and there's some very big remixes lined up and confirmed, which by the time this goes out, everyone will probably know, but right now I can't tell you.
So is it true that around that time you guys were also working on an album that never got released?
It is true, yes. We were actually signed for a 10-year deal, 5 albums, 10 years, which in hindsight was a ridiculous thing to sign. But again, you're new, you're snowballing, record contract, blah, blah, blah. You know how it goes. So yeah, we were signed for 10 years, 5 albums. We were working on lots of material for the new album. Probably 6, 7, 8 songs were written for the album, and then Sunshine was chosen to be the follow-up, but unfortunately, because of Sonique, it's almost a byproduct of Sonique's success at the time. She was #1 in lots of different countries, and Universal turned up and decided they wanted to make an offer to buy Sirius, and it was obviously of a sufficient sizable offer that Sam and Jules decided to accept this. And effectively, Universal bought Sirius and cancelled all the existing projects at the time. Now, they didn't really know that much about dance music back then. Ironically, they're here at ADE this year and they know a lot about it now, but back then they were expecting us to be like a 4-minute pop band, and we weren't a 4-minute pop band. We were an underground credible trance act wanting to write 7.5, 8-minute underground credible trance tracks. And so everything we wrote, they rejected because they didn't understand. And so we eventually got to a point where that's quite demoralizing, submitting tracks and then they're just constantly knocking it back. And it might have been a bit better if they'd have given us a bit more kind of constructive feedback, as in, well, we don't like this because of X, Y, Z. But when you get the A&R guy, it wasn't Rick, he'd moved on. It was another chap who I won't name. It might have been a bit better. He would just ring up and go, yeah, I'm not feeling it. And by the time you've done 8, 10, 12 of those, you just feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall. You're not giving me anything to work with. I'm doing what I think is good and what got us into this position in the first place, and you just keep knocking it back. So we ended up stuck in a 10-year deal that we couldn't get out of. Very similar to the George Michael situation, only much smaller and no court case involved.
Yeah. So you already mentioned the track Sunshine, which you gave away in 2019. Are there more finished tracks from that time, I guess?
Yeah, there are a few, and I have said that if there's enough interest, I would release them. There has been a huge amount of interest, so I will end up releasing them for free, and that's more just a kind of a gift back to the fans. There's this material that was done and finished nearly 20 years ago, and then never came out because of legal reasons.
Yeah. So I've heard you're back in the studio and working on new material, is that correct?
It is, yes, I am back in the studio. I have been working on lots of new material. I've got a remix out on Pure Trance soon, and then there is new official Conductor and Cowboy singles in the pipeline coming soon. So
that's together with Lee, or you just...
No, so we all went our separate ways. After the deal that kind of killed us as a band, you could kind of understand there was a frustrating time for us all. So yeah, we kind of split. Lee and Laura went their own separate ways, but I never really wanted to stop. I took a break around that time because I was a bit kind of pissed off with the industry around then, and I felt like I needed a break. And EDM was sort of happening around that time, and that was making trance, it was getting labelled as cheesy. The kind of trance I wanted to write was being called cheesy, and that pissed me off. And so there's no real motivation to carry on there. So I took a bit of a break, and about 5 years ago, the industry and the scene felt really, really good and felt like it was back on its feet, and trance was credible and doing well again, and I couldn't stay away any longer. And so I built a new studio, and I'm back producing again.
So what are you working on right now?
Right now, I have, it's a new Conductor and Cowboy single, to be honest. There's 3 in the works, but just before coming to ADE, I was putting the final touches to a new Conductor and Cowboy single. Okay,
so in 2020 we will hear a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
Also new remixes, or?
Yes, there's also new remixes coming. I love remixing, and however successful the artist side does, I will never turn my back on remixing, because I enjoy that. I enjoy taking the framework of a song that somebody else has written. I kind of don't have to worry about that, and then I can just get lost in doing the remix and working. I really enjoy that, and I'll never turn my back on that.
And the last question, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely yes.
Good. Well, thank you for your time and good luck with everything.
Thank you very much, Twine.
Alright, that was it, this week's vlog. My interview with Adam Pracy about Feeling This Way by the Conductor and the Cowboy. Adam, thank you very much for your time, much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching, I hope you enjoyed the vlog. If you did, make sure to give this video a like, leave a comment in the comment section below, and make sure to subscribe. Once again, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye!